The 59th gift, intimacy, sublimation and the serpent. The transformation of the 59th shadow into the 59th gift of intimacy is the subject of many ancient traditions and prophecies. Since the 59th shadow represents the unbridled fertile power of your animal sexuality, then by raising its frequency you unlock the transcendental power of sex. For millennia, mankind has sought to resolve its many issues around sexuality. For our religions, in particular, it has proved to be an enduring problem. Everyone knows that when sexuality is repressed, it can become an all-consuming power, ultimately leading to distortions in human behavior that are inherently unhealthy. The pure genetic force of pressure in this 59 gene key causes great personal and social dilemmas for us humans. When the ancient Chinese I Ching sages named the 59 hexagram dispersion, they knew exactly what this force was capable of. Its only real interest at the shadow frequency is to disperse itself as widely and frequently as possible. The 59 shadow has been playing havoc with human attempts at monogamy for a long time. Indeed, women and men react very differently to the fear inherent in this gene key. The traditional male reaction is to try to escape being trapped by a single woman. This fear of being trapped is the polarity of the 55th shadow. The female reaction is to try to hold on to the male aura because of its promise of protection for offspring. Women intuitively understand the male's urge to disperse his genes widely. At the shadow frequency, a woman reacts by trying to keep the male as close as possible, thereby creating the opposite reaction in the male, that of wanting to escape and be free. Thus goes the old age battle of the sexes. Hidden within the 59 shadow, however, is a deep evolutionary urge to transcend the lower frequencies and give birth to a higher form. Perhaps the deepest archetypal symbol of sexuality is the figure of the serpent or dragon, and within this alchemical symbol hides the key to the 59th gift. Serpent or dragon energy represents the evolutionary urge to transform oneself, reflected in the serpent's shedding of its own skin. The sexual power in humans has always held the promise of higher states of consciousness, and we have devised many techniques and systems that attempt to utilize it. These meet with varying and limited success, because although the evolutionary urge to transform is there within us, the timing for this mechanism cannot be forced. Nature always flowers in certain individuals early, just as certain flowers in the garden bloom first. However, to try and force our sexual flowering before it is ready can be dangerous. It will come in its own time. That's funny. At the 55th gene key mutates the human solar plexus system. It will allow the higher functioning of our sexuality to emerge. This will be a permanent function inherent from birth. To understand how this process is occurring, we must look in more depth at what happens to sexual power as it hits the gift frequency and manifests true intimacy. Intimacy may sound like a soft and cuddly kind of state, but the reality of the 59th gift of intimacy is somewhat different. Intimacy presupposes honesty and acceptance of the shadow state. This means that the fears between the sexes must be acknowledged, understood, and allowed to exist. This allowing then acts like a valve that opens up the full power of the sexual force, a shattering power that shakes the very fabric of your being. This is why it frightens us so, because it is such a raw power. What we don't usually realize is that the power of our sexuality is embraced fully, will open us to a higher state. What we don't usually realize is that the power of our sexuality, if embraced fully, will open us to a higher state. The sexual power of the 59th gift is highly contradictory. It is both creative and destructive. At the level of the human aura, it destroys any interference patterns that appear to separate people. In other words, it causes your identity or ego to be dissolved. As the core of sexuality across our planet, the 59th gift has a deep underlying non-linear pattern. When modern science first explored chaos theory, it began to understand the 59th gene key. The very nature of sexual energy is wild, organic, and untamable, but it also follows universal patterns even within its chaos. The sexual force is a spiraling force, which is why all living creatures have similar foundational spiral geometries. This force creates what are known as fractal geometries throughout nature, self-similar systems that are all interlinked, yet at the same time utterly unique. These creative transformational patterns and geometries are also found within human relationships. The power of human intimacy is the power of two human auras interacting to create a third aura, while in the process of two original auras are sublimated. The more differentiated the original auras are, the more potential there is for transcendence. One always needs two opposite poles, and the coming mutation of the human solar plexus system will essentially create a cauldron whenever two such poles meet. Within that cauldron, the auric fields of the two parties are chaotically interfused, and through an alchemical process, a new awareness dawns about the solar plexus center. The actual culmination of this process does not occur in the solar plexus area, but in the heart. In traditional esoteric systems, we tend to view the centers of force within the body as separate as opposed to being part of a single system. The heart center is in fact the higher glandular functioning of the solar plexus. As this heart opening occurs, true intimacy is born and two people meet within a single awareness. It is important, therefore, to grasp the true nature of the process known as sublimation of sexuality. It is a shattering process in which chaos must be experienced before the higher emergence is perceived. Since this process is currently occurring throughout the entire human gene pool, what we see in the world today may be understood as a reflection of this chaotic breaking down of the world aura. Only when it has reached a critical zenith will we begin to see the birth of the third awareness. This will be reflected in the material plane through the birth of a new kind of human being, whose single purpose is to house this new awareness.